Throughout 2024, Russia's oil refining industry has been on fire. The losses are colossal. Entire facilities are shutting down, disrupting gasoline sales, causing supply chain failures, and leading to billion-dollar losses for the Kremlin. The Omsk refinery, with a capacity of 22 million tons of oil per year, is Russia's largest. After an attack in August 2024, around half of its processing capabilities were knocked out of operation. The Ryazan oil refinery halted operations after a drone strike on January 24, 2025. Ukraine's Armed Forces General Staff confirmed the strike on another refinery in Saratov region on the night of February 11. This facility produces over 20 types of petroleum products and plays a role in supplying the Russian occupation army.
Look, it's a huge fire out there. These strikes have been happening systematically since the beginning of the year. If we compare the pace with previous years, we can see that they have become more frequent and more coordinated than in 2024, much more so than in 2023.
Drone attacks on Russian refineries have taken out approximately 10% of Russia's refining capacity, according to Reuters. Experts call these strikes the most effective form of sanctions. Oil processing has plummeted. The government has imposed a 6-month gasoline export ban, and fuel prices have skyrocketed. These attacks damage not only military logistics but also Russia's energy sector and, by extension, the entire economy of the aggressor state. A drop in oil prices to $45 per barrel could force Putin to negotiate, stated Kate Kellogg, the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia. Tougher sanctions on Russia's oil industry would serve as an additional pressure tool against the aggressor state.
According to Western sources, since the beginning of successful strikes on Russia's oil refining infrastructure, up to 16% of the country's refineries have been put out of service or seriously damaged. These are massive financial losses for the Russian budget. And let me emphasize again, this disrupts the logistical support of Russia's occupation army. Putin's attempt to portray lower oil prices as against U.S. interests suggests that Putin is afraid of the harm such policies would cause Russia and is trying to persuade Trump to abandon these proposals without having to concede to Trump's insistence on meaningful negotiations to end the war. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
The Russian government has already been forced to take unpopular measures, including a temporary ban on fuel exports and increased fuel imports. The latest strikes on Russia's energy infrastructure have demonstrated Ukraine's new drone capabilities, hitting targets over 1,000 kilometers away. Oil refineries in the aggressor state are legitimate military targets, and attacks on them will continue, stated Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces Alexander Syrsky.
Strikes against military targets on enemy territory are increasing. Military units, arsenals, storage depots, defense industry plants, oil refineries supplying fuel to the Russian army, and other strategic sites will be attacked as long as Moscow's aggression against our state continues. The strike range of deep strike missiles inside Russian territory has now reached 1,700 kilometers. We are preparing new long-range capabilities, and they will be deployed. Alexander Syrsky, Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, on Facebook.
Over the past year, 377 Russian military targets have been successfully hit, according to Syrsky. Due to regular strikes, Russia has been forced to relocate air defense systems from occupied Crimea deep into Russian territory, reports the resistant movement Atesh. Some anti-aircraft missile systems, including those from the 31st Air Defense Division, have already been redeployed from Crimea to new positions. However, experts believe that even these relocated defense systems remain vulnerable to Ukrainian strikes. Additionally, Russia lacks the necessary components to restore them due to sanctions.
Restoring an air defense system, if damaged or disrupted, takes a significant amount of time, not to mention the fact that they don't always have the necessary components. There are many viable targets beyond just energy infrastructure. Oil refineries, fuel storage facilities, logistics hubs, airfields, and military equipment depots. The key challenge is having enough drones.
Ukraine has surpassed Russia in the production of FPV drones and is rapidly scaling up production. In 2024 alone, over 250 new drone models of various types and purposes were introduced into service with the Ukrainian armed forces.
In the drone sector, within a month to 3 months, the effectiveness of a given model declines. We must constantly find new ways to maintain efficiency. The ongoing technological duel between drone manufacturers and electronic warfare developers is a perfect example of this. Ivan Havrilyuk, First Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Lieutenant General, in an interview with Ukrinform.
One of the key priorities of Ukraine's Ministry of Defense in 2025 is the development of next-generation long-range weapons. This will allow for high-precision strikes against enemy targets at extreme distances, significantly weakening Russia's military potential. Reported by Serhiy Kulyas, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.
Pokrovsk is one of the hardest spots on the front lines. The Russian army is attacking Ukrainian forces from all sides. The enemy mostly operates with small assault groups.
In December, there were heavy fogs in the Pokrovsk direction and across the eastern front. They moved at night, then hid somewhere, waiting for all the groups to pass, 2 people at a time. Now their assaults involve 8 to 10 people, sometimes more. They move using lightly armored vehicles and cars.
Ukrainian forces carry out a series of counterattacks and push the Russians out of the village of Pishane, just a few kilometers from Pokrovsk. However, the Russian army continues to make new attempts to break through. Moscow does not care about its losses. The Kremlin is trying to gain as much as possible in the potential negotiation process, which is why they set new deadlines for capturing Ukrainian territories, experts explain.
Understanding that Russia is heading towards social and economic collapse, Russia's military capabilities are running out much faster than they can replenish them, including all mobilization resources and those from the military-industrial complex. Therefore, the Russian occupiers understand that they need to hurry, including in the negotiation process.
The Russian army continues its efforts to push Ukrainian forces out of positions near Vodinoe, Novotroitske, Yelizavetovka, Promin, Dachinke, Kotline, Novo-Alexandrivka, Andriivka, and Ulake. Airstrikes are targeting Myrolubivka, Zvirov, and Pokrovsk.
The enemy is trying to realize its numerical advantage and develop the offensive. Heavy fighting continues.
Ukrainian armed forces are launching effective counterattacks on the enemy. As a result, the pace of the Russian advance on the front has significantly slowed in the last 3 months, analysts from the Institute for the Study of War noted.
It can't be said that the fighting has become less intense than before. There is simply a tendency toward a decrease. This can be explained by several factors. Both the exhaustion of the Russians and the fact that they may be preparing for new offensive actions, operations that they plan but have not openly spoken about, likely in April or May of this year.
Russian command is struggling to replenish its losses, experts claim.
Equipment is being destroyed first. I'm talking about all types of equipment, from cars to motorcycles and so on. This, combined with other factors, reduces the number of their assaults. But we know for sure that they are constantly pulling in reserves, even transferring them from other areas of the front to the Pokrovsk direction.
Approximately a third of all combat encounters each day occur in the Pokrovsk direction. To increase the intensity of combat, Moscow will have to reduce activity on other parts of the front.
I don't think a decision will be made, for example, to withdraw forces from the Lyman direction and transfer them to Pokrovsk to increase pressure there.
After a series of sharp statements by the President of US, Donald Trump, directed at President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, the US Institute for the Study of War published a report refuting Trump's claims. One of these claims was that Russia could soon capture all of Ukraine's territory.
Russian forces currently occupy around 20% of Ukraine, leaving the remaining 80% of the country under Ukraine's sovereign control. At the current rate of advance, it would take Russian forces over 83 years to capture the remaining 80% of Ukraine, assuming that they can sustain massive personnel losses indefinitely. From ISW report,
The total combat losses of the Russian army since the start of the full-scale invasion of Ukraine have succeeded 8,066,000, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, reported by Alexander Zaslavets, Victoria Smirnova, UATV News.